another Tuesday where I'm delighted to welcome you to another episode of Cloud Talk Live. Well, folks, welcome back to the program. My name is Jeff DeVerter, and I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace Technology. And what an interesting morning it has been. Really enjoying all of the goodness of an internet going out at the very last minute. But that's all part of the how you roll these days. We'll deal with it. I hope you're having a great day. This is my first day back. You may have seen the promo. I was down at the Texas coast for a few days, which was super fun. And but now back and excited about getting to talk to you guys and introduce you to my guest here shortly. But before we do that, folks, of course, welcome to the program. And you know the routine around here. I would love for you to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you are right there in the comments. Oops, I pushed the button too quickly. There we go, back one. All right, and tell us who you are, tell us where you are, and I'll just keep pushing buttons until this all works. There we go. All right, another fun day. You know, it's the first day back. What are you going to do? All right, tell us who you are, tell us where you are in your comments, and whether you're watching us on YouTube, whether you're watching us over on LinkedIn, and tell us, a little bit about yourself and about where you are in the world. Also, if you have other feedback for us, I would love for you to send an email to solve@rackspace.com. Comes to the whole production team. Megan gets it, Daniel gets it, Gracie gets it. Oh, Omar may even get it for all I know. He's our CEO. He doesn't get it. Well, he gets a lot of stuff, but he doesn't get that email. Be careful what I say here. I'd like to stick around. All right, well, team, I'm excited in a little bit to bring up my guest. We're going to talk about government services, but a few things to cover before we get there, of course. If we're not already best buddies over on LinkedIn, I would love for you to give me a little follow. Creating lots of interesting content, at least I think it is, and I think you might find it of value. So go ahead and follow me over there, and you'll be up to date on everything. Also, if you're not already following us over on the podcast, which is called Cloud Talk, I would love for you to do that. This week starts a new series, and it is called the CTO Roundtable. Each week, a different group of CTOs in and around Rackspace or from our big partners, AWS, Azure, Google, VMware, Hugging Face, fill in the blank, are going to be here to talk about some amazing topics. And so this week we have Ram Viswanathan, we have Justin Kuss, and of course we have we got everybody who's here. So that goes live. I think I'm publishing it tomorrow. So make sure that you're following us over at wherever you find your podcast. Follow Cloud Talk, and you'll find us over there. All right. Well, with that, I think one last bit of info. We had an amazing summit last week. I hope you were a part of that. If you didn't, well, it's live here on LinkedIn. You can watch it over there. But it is all an echo and an exposing all of the great content we had inside of our quarterly research all about data and AI. And if you haven't already downloaded that white paper, it's available for free. Just head on over to where that QR code right over there, and you can download it. We'll bring that up throughout the show. Daniel can pop it up, and because I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get in and read a lot of that content, because it really was quite excellent. Awesome. All right. Well, today I have the great pleasure of bringing up somebody you haven't gotten to know yet. He's a first-timer here on the program. He's a long-timer running around Rackspace. He is even a longer timer, not that he's old, about helping companies transform through the use of technology. Now, Jason Wicker is a chief architect here at Rackspace inside of our government services business. And he really has some great stories to tell, and I could tell them for him, or we could just bring him up onto stage. So Jason, welcome to the program.
Morning, sir. Glad to have you back.
I'm glad that you are here. And of course, I'm dealing with a little bit of internet issues. So Jason, if I disappear, the mic is yours. You can talk about whatever you want.
I can do that. I can just keep on talking.
I would expect you could do that. Jason, give us a little background. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in this business for close to 30 years. I worked with VMware back when it was a desktop, before it even existed as a true hypervisor, right? Watched the clouds grow up. I've been working in public sector now for the last about 7 years, on and off, and working with Rackspace to help grow our public sector business, and more importantly, really allow our government entities to adopt new technologies and cloud of any platform.
Right. I love, you're teeing me up into my next question, Jason. You say cloud of any platform. And the title of our event here today, Cloud Mastery, Agency's Journey to the Cloud, probably means we should define what the cloud is before we get started, doesn't it?
Good call. Good call. And
Yeah.
I
So
think if
tell
we
us,
talk
how do
about,
you define it?
well, so for us, it's basically, I joke around. I was asked on an interview one time, what is the cloud and how does the government use it? And my
Yeah.
response was, the cloud is somebody else's computer and the government is learning how to use it. Right. And ultimately, so whether it's private cloud, whether it's public cloud, or more importantly, what we see most of the time, hybrid cloud. Right. So really, with all of the partners, government agencies have been using technology obviously for as long as it's been around. Traditionally, they're a little bit behind, right, in some of the areas in which they adopt technology. So even more important, private cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud are critical to the growth path of IT technology and services provided by the government.
Well, and we're here to talk about how the government is transforming who they are and what they do through the use of the cloud, as we define. And I love that you said hybrid cloud. And the government is not different in the rest of industry in the fact that hybrid cloud is really where it's at for the foreseeable future. And I mean that by 5, 10 years, probably,
Yep.
as far as we can view it. Jason, at the end of the day, does the government have any challenges that commercial industry, has? Is there anything completely unique here?
Oh, well, I mean, completely unique. Yeah, there's a huge, huge responsibility that the government has, and that's with us as constituents in our data, right? So,
Mm,
as a business, right, they're out there doing things, providing services, taking in money, etc. The government is a true service provider to all of its constituents and sometimes, adjacent constituents as well in other areas, other states. And it's really at the heart of like it is with the rest of the world today, but at the heart of it's at data protection, data regulation, proper use of data. And so, with that, one of the things that we always look at as a unique challenge in the government is they have regulations, they have laws that they have to follow, whether it's procurement law, whether it's data protection law. There's always, and by the way, those laws can change next week.
yeah.
So they have to be prepared to flex.
That's right, and there is a lot more controls on what needs to happen, and also when you and I have talked about this in the past, when we think about industry transforming to utilize newer technologies, and we think about the state and local governments, even federal, but really we're focused a little bit more on state and local here today. The one of the things you said is also very different is the timing and where they are in their journey.
And you're right. And so we have customers that are still running legacy mainframes
Yeah.
in the data center today, right? We have customers that have modernized those to private cloud in the data center. We have customers that are modernizing those kind of things into public cloud. And more important, one of the things that we find more often than not is the government just can't fully modernize everything they do in one pass, right?
Right.
Whereas an industry, could come in and be like, okay, we're just going to take everything, we're going to modernize. It's all going to go microservices. It's all going to go serverless. It's all going to go into public cloud. Well, with the comptroller of Texas, for example, has 70 years of data sitting in a mainframe,
Right.
right? That's still sitting in the data center. So they can go in and add a hypervisor layer in the data center for private cloud and then add a presentation layer in public cloud. But at the end of the day, they're still tied back, right? In some
Yeah.
cases, back to that big iron that's sitting there. Now, granted, I have some agencies that we work with that have fully gotten away from that, totally modernized. But we can't always assume as a government service provider that they can leave legacy tech behind.
That's right. Legacy tech, because that still has really valuable and live data that exists there. So let's talk for a second about how the adoption of cloud technologies, public, private, hybrid, for all of this is impacting the efficiency and effectiveness of state and local government. Let's dig into a little bit about what are some of the outcomes. Why are they doing this work?
Well, so I mean, it's really about providing services as quick and as efficiently as possible to the
Yeah.
constituent, right? So I know COVID is in the past, right? In theory, it's in the past.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Rackspace did when we were working with one of our states was help modernize and get COVID dashboards, get COVID reporting, all of that out there, help people get to remote work, right? All of these things that we have taken for granted in a lot of cases in the industry, government had to very quickly pivot and do. And they still continue to do that, right? So, whether it's leveraging things like fraud detection,
Hmm.
right, and using APIs, whether we're starting to see AI as a huge piece of adoption. But at the end of the day, the outcome for the government is always how can we provide a better service to the constituent while being fiscally responsible as an entity, and at the same time maintaining security and best practices.
It's a great focus. It's not necessarily about a company saying, hey, we're going to be more profitable, we're going to bring new product to market. It is how do we serve the constituency better? And in a lot of cases, we're measuring those folks in the millions. I mean, it's a big impact when state and local government looks for ways to be more efficient, more effective to be able to serve. But they're not unlike industry in that there are challenges. How are some of these challenges unique in state and local government in this transformation?
Well, so one is technical debt, right? So there's always
Mm-hmm.
going to be technical debt and data debt to an extent. And what I mean by data debt is that we have all of this data, but we haven't classified all of this data. We haven't necessarily put all the right buckets of regulations around it. Now, most states in the federal government have provided guidance, they've provided regulations on these kind of things, but that's still a tall order,
Yeah.
right? So that's a big change for a lot of agencies to go in and mass do all this. Now, as we move into the worlds of AI, as we move into more data centric world, as we have been in the commercial space, the government is actually kind of in a better position because they're seeing commercial go do it first, right? So they're able to learn from what's going on out there, and in some cases, actually bring in best practices, best technologies, best platforms that have already been vetted, right? So it allows them to quickly accelerate and pivot as well to bring in new solutions. Back to my COVID example, right? We were
Yeah.
able to pivot to get COVID dashboards out there for everybody within months, and in some cases weeks,
Yeah.
right, of being able to drive, which is also a nice thing about government. When government puts its mind to something, we can move fast, right? Put the right
And there's and
resources,
there's
the
a
right
lot of
time.
momentum that inertia once
Exactly.
it's moving, it gets moving.
Yep. Yep. But data gravity is where we're going to be in the future. The government is realizing that, but the government will also at the same time say, "Hey, we have a data problem." Right. So I just spent last week at NASCIO, the National CIOs State CIOs Conference, and that was, everybody was talking about AI, but what it really came to was we actually need to get in and manage our data first so
Yeah.
that we can adopt all of this. And so, when we talk about the widgets of this API or that hypervisor or this cloud provider, it's kind of the same across the board, right? Those technologies, all those vendors are out there talking to everybody. But because of the mesh of regulation and constituents, and of course tax dollars, right, driving all of this, there are unique challenges that the government is that's out there, and it's one of the reasons that we partner with so many governments to help them get an understanding of how do they do what they want, right? A lot of times they
Yeah.
can be like, oh, we want to do that over there, but how do we get to it,
Jason, I'm
right?
wondering,
How do we do what we're
we've
doing today?
yeah, we've talked a lot about data here. In any transformation, whether it's in technology to some form of a cloud, public or private, or a combination of the two, there's always eventually there's one catalyst. There's a lot of little things that'll start getting attention, but there's something that knocks it over. How important is data? You've talked about data being a strong catalyst. Is that, like we see in industry, a strong catalyst for driving this type of transformation?
Absolutely, right? So in we use the term steward a lot in the government space, right? We have to be good stewards of this data. And so as we're generating more data, and you probably have gone into it before, but I mean, we're exponential in the amount of data that's getting generated across the world. With that, it allows the government to provide more value to the end constituent, right? So I was working, for example, with here in Texas, one of the Environmental Quality Board, right? The Environmental Quality Board has billions of records of historical data going for the last 70 years. But until just recently, it's really only belonged to the engineers, the surveyors, the builders, and those kind of things. Well, one of the things that they've started to do is realize that this data has value above and beyond just, you know, those technical users, right? There's benefit to the end user or to the constituent to be able to get access to that data. So we talk about democratizing data, right? And one of the things that we work with folks to do is how do we take this data that's out there, create a proper presentation layer, create proper security, and then allow all of this government data to be available and easy to access so that the constituents can make their own decisions. Constituents can get access to this type of information, whether it's renewing your driver's license with a couple of clicks, right? Like we can do here in Texas,
Yep.
or whether it is going back and researching the environmental quality of the water in your neighborhood, right? And because government has all that data, now with hybrid and with the AI and all the things that are coming, we're able to present and provide that data out to customers while still maintaining the responsibility of being the steward of that data.
Now, Jason, we can't have a conversation about data where we don't have a conversation about AI. Is government as excited about AI as the rest of industry appears to be?
I'm going to not use the word excited.
Interested.
Interested, yes. Yes, yeah. In some cases, depending on where where you're talking about, sometimes it's terrified, sometimes it's ecstatic. Here in Texas, right, we've been working on AI. There's an AI council the governor's put together. Some of the great thought leaders in the state are involved in that. I spend a decent amount of time myself down at the Capitol talking to folks about AI. And, a lot of what we do with AI, like any other technological advancement that comes forth in the government, we go after the low-hanging fruit first, right? And low-hanging fruit doesn't always mean technologically easy to get to. Sometimes it means, hey, this is open data source. We're okay using AI on data that everybody could get to anyway. Now we put guardrails around it, right? Especially when you start talking to senators and actual government elected officials, they start to worry about things like hallucinations and free data and data availability. But then you start talking to the CIOs, the CTOs, the thought leaders within the individual agencies, cities, or states, and they want to know, hey, how do we make this work faster? How do we, government's always kind of understaffed, right? Regardless of everything, it's always kind of understaffed. So, how do we use AI to be that, the assistant to our government folks to allow quicker and easier services? So right now, the question is, where can we use it?
Right.
How can we use it with low risk? And how do we get value to the constituent out of every dollar spent on AI? And then how do we mitigate risk?
Right. So,
But I
Jason,
mean,
I'm curious also, as you've talked to states, state representatives, senators, and the different folks around the country, I'd love to know what are three use cases either you're seeing them pursue for AI, or ones that you think would be excellent for state and local government to use AI in their space?
Sure. So number one is policy, right? Policy search. So whether it's internal policy for folks that are looking to find policy to help provide back out to the constituents, or whether it's allowing the constituents access to that data. So that's a big area where Gen AI plays right into it, and it works very successfully. We've been doing some implementations for folks where we take 60 years worth of policy documents, we scan them, we bring them in, and then they are allowed to quickly and easily search for things. For example, we're working on some stuff right now with universities because FAFSA, right, the Financial Aid Services Program, kind of didn't go super well in 2024. So having AI help search that and generate answers is something that we're seeing a lot of take on. We're also seeing a lot of uplift in kind of predictive automation of data. So whether it's fraud analysis, whether it's these people are, wherever we're looking at AI to predict what's going to happen in the future, where we can better provide a service to a constituent. I fall back to fraud because, workforce commission, child support, there's always areas where money is involved. And when money's involved, unfortunately, fraud can also be involved. So that's another big area. And then the other piece that we look at for helping people do AI is in how can we just make the government more efficient, right? One of my favorite use cases for AI actually here in Texas is the Department of Transportation has created a fully automated decision system for expense approvals for folks that are doing things. And they've cut down probably 6 man people's worth of time of time it takes to review and approve expense reports for people that are out there traveling across the great state of Texas, just doing their job, right? Building roads, whatever it may be that they're out there doing. They've used a full end-to-end automated AI system to basically say, you know what, you submit it, you're doing the right thing, it's automatically approved. Now they have good error checking in there. If it's less than 87% accurate, it goes to a person, all of the proper checks and balances that you should have in an AI system. But that took 6 people, 240 hours a week of labor that does not need to be paid for by the constituents. And it has approved that. And I can tell you that the cost of that solution was nothing near those 240 hours a week.
I love that. And everybody always says, "Well, what about those 6 to 8 people that used to do that job?" Nobody wanted that job. Nobody wanted to stare at an expense report and nag with somebody about it back and forth. Let it get done
I do want to
automatically. Let those
let me
folks.
jump on that real quick because that
Sure.
this is a personal topic of mine I like to talk about, right? So everybody, there were some statistics came back a couple of years ago that said 47% of all jobs are going to be replaced by AI. The reality of that statement, like many statements, if you listen to the whole statement, what it says is 47% of job functions will be
Hmm.
replaced by AI, not people,
That's
right?
right.
According to the research, we're still on the 7 to 9%, which by the way is standard for normal evolution of technology. It's not AI is not special in the fact that it's going to take out more people's jobs. What it is going to allow people
Right.
to do is do their jobs better and with less effort and more accuracy.
I love that. All right, Jason, we just have a few minutes left. And what I'd like to talk about now is, when I keep comparing how state and local government agencies have work to do that is, in some cases, very similar to what enterprise has to do. But Rackspace gets very involved in helping companies go through this. So we all know Rackspace, the world's leading multi-cloud services partner provider. So whether that's moving them into a public cloud, designing and building and running a private cloud, great. We can do that across both commercial as well as state and local government. But how specifically are we helping here at Rackspace agencies to go through this process? Where do we show up as a valued partner?
I mean, we show up through the entire life cycle, right? So it really just, whether we're, myself and my peers are having conversations with CIOs and CTOs about how to adopt technology, the next best thing, how do we get those involved to, hey, there's a gap in our skill set. Hey, you know what? We can run operating systems and we can run applications all day long, but we don't know how to manage a hypervisor in the public cloud or in the private cloud. We don't know how to connect these two pieces, these two worlds of my private cloud data center to my public cloud instances. And so when we do that, we help the agencies learn from our experience in the commercial space, learn from the education that our folks have, as well as, in some cases, execute, right? One of the things that we do at Rackspace and we do very well is we do with, right?
Yes.
I know we do a lot of do for. That's a great effort, right? That's the commercial world. Do for, hell, come build this for me. But in the government space, we do with. It's consultative, it's step by step. It's, hey, sometimes we'll be there for a month straight, then we'll disappear for 5 months, and then we'll come back and help finish out mix months 6, 7, and 8, really to help fill in the gaps, right? Whether it's, hey, we need this developer skill set, we need this, how do I build master data management model, for example,
Right.
right? For all this constituent data.
Fantastic. All right. And if people want to learn more about how we're helping state and local government, I believe we have a fancy QR code that's going to pop up. But just head over, I believe it was rackspace.com/industry/government. That's where that
Sounds right.
URL is going to take you. Jason, you are about to head off on vacation. I'm so thankful that you were able to spend a few minutes with us here this morning. People want to learn more about you. How do they find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn,
Yep.
and you can find me probably at least once a week down at the Capitol here in Texas. Otherwise, I'm there. The phone, the internet. I'm pretty responsive. If you are interested, though, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to introduce you. I've got a pretty broad network across the government and the country, and always happy to support anybody's desires to learn and do more.
That's right. Jason, one of the things we didn't talk about today, which we're going to have to do on the next one, is the challenges in figuring out the purchasing vehicles and how do they actually execute on some of this. And that is, we got like 30 seconds left, and we are not going to cover that in 30 seconds. So you're going to have to
No.
come back and
Yep.
and talk about that. Maybe we'll bring some people together and have an interesting conversation about that as well. So, Jason, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for ending your work experience before vacation by coming online with us here. And I hope you have a great vacation.
Thanks, sir. Y'all have a great day.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of the program here today. We will be back next week with another great episode. What is it? It's going to be, my guess is we got Microsoft up here. We got some really interesting things to share about what's happening in the M365 space. Just make sure you're following Rackspace. Make sure you're following me on LinkedIn. We'll have invitations to that event and maybe even another, well, not a beach promo, but I'll find somewhere different to walk about and tell you about it next Monday. Everyone, hope you have a great rest of your day. My name is Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace Technology, and we'll see you next week on Cloud Talk Live.